thank you for coming. Good to see a lot of people here today. I'm going to call to order the Okeechobee Utility Authority Board of Director meeting for February 17th, 2022. It is 8:36. Can I get everybody to please stand and join me with a pledge? Of course. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God bless America.
Amen.
Keep everybody safe. Okay, we're going to have determination of voting members and take the roll. Ms. Anderson?
Present.
Mr. Clay?
Present.
Mr. Creasman's here. Mr. Fadley's out. Mr. Moldenhauer? He's out. Mr. Nelson?
Present.
Ms. Trent?
Here.
Mr. Snyder? Good. It looks like we have two county members voting, two city members, and Glades County, so we're a full quorum. Agenda item, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda that a board member would like to address? Being none?
Make a motion to accept the agenda from the last meeting.
Motion, Mr. Nelson. Second, Mr. Clay. Any further discussion? Being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 3, the meeting minutes for the January 10th, 2022 meeting. I'll entertain a motion to accept the board minutes unless corrections are required.
Motion to accept the minutes.
Motion to accept by Mr. Nelson. Second, Mr. Clay. Further discussion? Being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 4, would any board member like to pull any items for discussion in the consent agenda?
Just one question on item 13. No problems with the accounts written off?
Okay.
Other than that, none.
Make a motion, we accept the consent agenda as written.
Motion by Mr. Clay,
Second.
second Mr. Nelson. Discussion? Being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Going to skip down to agenda item number 14. Mr. Hayford, Connor Gable.
Connors Gables Water Main, you'll see in your board package several items that are up for consideration. OUA staff put out a request for a materials bid for the bulk of the material going in Connors Gables. You can see a bid tab in your board package. A bid of $37,702.70 was the low bid by Core and Maine, and it would be staff's recommendation that we accept that bid for this project.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Hayford? Okay, I'll entertain a motion that we recommend the approval of the bid submitted by Core in Maine in the amount of $37,702.70.
So said.
Motion by Mr. Nelson.
Second.
Second, Ms. Trent. Any further discussion? Being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
The second item under that agenda item is a review. You'll have in your package a recommendation of award to PRP Construction Group. There is a letter from the engineer, Christine, for Holtz Consulting Engineers. Christine Miranda is actually recommending the approval for PRP Construction Group in the amount of $141,472.
Any questions for Mr. Hafer? All right, I'll entertain a motion that we approve the bid submitted by PRP Construction Group LLC in the amount of $141,472.
So said.
Motion by Mr. Nelson.
Second.
Second, Mr.
The third item under consideration for that agenda item is the issuance of the notice of award for the Connors Gables water main improvements, authorizing the appropriate staff to issue the notice of award to PRP Construction Group.
Discussion? All right, I'll entertain a motion that the board authorize the OUA board chair to execute the notice of award for the Connor Gable Water Main Improvement
So
Project.
said.
Motion by Mr. Nelson,
Second.
Second, Mr. Clay. Further discussion? Being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Board members, what we'll do then is issue this notice of award. They will have their time to prepare bid bonds, sign the agreement, insurance, get that paperwork back to us. And at the next board meeting, if that paperwork has been provided, you will get to review and/or recommend issuing the notice to proceed for that project.
Very good, sir. Thank you. All right, moving on to agenda item number 15, Southwest Service Area Master Pump Station.
Mr. Chairman, board members, you have your board package, the submittals made from Felix Associates. They were at the conclusion of last month's board meeting, and notice of award was issued to them. They in turn have submitted the agreement, the appropriate bonds, the insurance, the paperwork that was requested by the project documents. So in your board package, there is a recommendation of notice to proceed prepared by Summer Engineering and Consulting. Mr. Jeff Sumner is here to answer any questions concerning that. But that is what is up for topic of review today, is to allow the execution of the notice to proceed for the Southwest Service Area Master Pump Station project.
Thank you, John. Any questions for Mr. Hayford or Mr. Sumner?
So they're gonna, they're saying they could have this built in 365 days
Completion for,
and completion in 425?
Hope so, yeah.
The longest lead item is the generator. And it's.
Good luck.
Yeah, well, they said through for the bid item that they used, after 5 to 6 weeks of shop blowing submittals, it's almost 40-something weeks for delivery. So all told, that's 50 weeks out of 52. So they really don't have any float time, and everything has to happen. Now, they are considering an alternative bid for the generator. That's under review by the engineering staff right now. And the alternative bid is much shorter turnaround time. So worst case, 50 weeks, provided there are no real issues. But it could be shorter if we went to an alternative bid.
same generator, same specs.
Not the same generator. It's a different manufacturer, but the alternative generator does have to meet the intent of the specification or exceed. In this instance, we're just issuing, they bid it with the,
Sorry, George. Go ahead, John.
they've bid it with the one that was 50 weeks, which is within their time frame, and that's what we're approving today, the issue of notice to proceed. If they do nothing else, they have to give us that generator.
All right, Mr. Gall.
Yes, the Philadelphia Indemnity Insurance Company. I read this. I'm surprised kind of how I read it. I'd like to request them to provide us their management letter and an audit, just so we have it for the file.
Okay, can we, I don't see any problem with requesting that information. Does any board member? No? Okay.
That would be a condition, then, of the notice to proceed.
Right.
Thank you, George.
Thank you, George. So we want to put this off to the side till we get that documentation?
Do we have to, Tom, or can we approve it pending?
I don't see why you don't go on and do it.
I just think out of abundance of caution, we should get the insurance company's audit and management letter. I don't expect there to be anything abnormal, but I'm surprised that they don't have that in here or something that. But insurance companies are really different, so.
Do we typically
No.
ask for that? The only reason I bring it up, we're gonna need to make a change to the supplemental conditions if we put off the notice to proceed.
We have,
The agreement called for to be within 60 days of bid opening, which is Sunday. That's actually the date that I set on the NTP for you to sign, Mr. Chairman. So if we're gonna put it off, we would need to delay that, but I would.
I don't think you should delay it for that reason. I just think we should ask for it.
With the way the market conditions are doing, I would suggest you go on and,
I mean, we reviewed all of his, the information they submitted. They're a substantial company.
Yeah, this is a substantial insurance company too, but it's just,
Changing time.
I've
As
never seen it
artic-
worded this way before, is what I'm trying to say.
As articulated by Mr. Gall, he doesn't see a reason to stop it, just ask that it be included in their next package. So I think that's, I'm in agreement with that. Anybody else? All right. So what we're looking for is I'll entertain a motion to approve the execution of the notice to proceed for the Southwest Service Area Master Pump Station project.
So said.
Motion by Mr. Clay.
Second.
Second by Mr. Nelson. Further discussion? And that is with Felix and Associates, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 16 is the Southwest Service Area Master Force Main Material Bid. John?
Chair and board members, in your board package is again another one of these lovely bid tabs from 4 different vendors that submitted bids on materials for the master force main. Just as a remembrance, this force main connects the pump station that was just approved for construction to our existing pump station up at the soccer fields near the airport. That's our NW15. So this is the materials. Why do we do the materials? The materials, as we all know, there's been some delay through shortage of materials, shortage of this or that, all blamed under COVID and rising prices. So what the OUA board or the OUA staff has chosen to do is to pre-bid this material such that when the actual construction project goes out to bid next month, this material has already been ordered, it's in the queue, going to be delivered. The contractor should not have any delays associated with material because we would have already ordered this and it will be coming in, probably start to be coming in during the time it's out for bid. So before they even turn dirt, there should be some product on the ground ready to install. What we ran into in ordering the material, the design was around 10-inch PVC force main. When we talked to the material suppliers, most of them were telling us that PVC is not as easy to get as it is HDPE material. Secondly, we were ordering kind of a off size. 10 inch is not very popular. So because there's shortage of material, they're making the stuff cells, which is 12-inch, 8-inch, 6-inch pipe, and primarily blue because that's what's used for water systems. We needed green. So we had 2 things against it, 10-inch pipe and green. But for the amount we needed, they were still going to be able to make it. But we bid it such that we bid it with either 10-inch pipe or 12-inch HDPE pipe, so we could see, A, is the HDPE quicker to get here, and B, is it cheaper? And if you look through the bid tabs, you'll see one for primarily 10-inch pipe, the other for 12-inch. The 12-inch HDPE did come in less expensive and quicker. So you'll see in your board package the bid tab. Again, did come in with the lower bid for the 12-inch HDPE to the tune of $646,110.98.
John, there's no problem with oversizing the force main?
There really isn't, not going from 10-inch to 12-inch for 2 reasons. It's not a significant jump, but HDPE, the pipe that we call for, is a thicker wall, so the ID is less, and it's very close to what the ID diameter for the 10-inch PVC. So it's very, very similar. So if it's going to do anything, it's going to make it slightly better. You can get more flow, less friction through that 12-inch HDPE. So it's actually better for it slightly. What you don't want to do is go from 10-inch PVC to like 16-inch HDPE. Then it is going to be could be a problem with the pumps.
Very good. Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Hafer? Being none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the bid submitted by Core and Main of not to exceed the amount of $646,110.98.
So sad.
Motion by Mr. Nelson. Second, Mr. Clay. Further discussion? Being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
When would you expect delivery?
Well, we got to issue the purchase order. I believe, if I remember correctly, they were saying it would be anywhere from the end of March to mid-April. But it's still,
Canada or not.
well, or the national one that's being talked about. But the deal is, it will still be out during the time for bidding for the actual contract.
Where are you gonna stockpile this where are you gonna stockpile all
One
that?
of two places, where we bought the property of the school board, we had purchased 2 acres. So there's gonna be some clearing there, or at the water plant on State Road 78.
You're not gonna upset the turtles by putting it over there, are you?
Sir?
You're not gonna upset the
Sir?
tortoises, are you?
Sir? No, sir.
Okay. Just don't want any more tortoise problems. All right, moving along. Where am I? It is agenda item number 17, the Southwest Service Area Interconnect. John?
I'm going to probably defer a lot of this to our engineer and our attorney. In the board package, and I'll set the table here, we have an interconnect between our existing forest main on Southwest 3rd Avenue that we wanted to divert flow west to this new master pump station for 2 reasons. One, early on in the pump station, there's going to be limited flow going into it. So by diverting flow from our existing forest main to the west, it'll be able to exercise and make sure that we use the new master pump station. The second issue, which is most beneficial to the OUA, there is a lot of flow going to SE2. A lot of flow, especially when it's either in season or wet. So by diverting some of that flow to the west, will lessen the burden on SE2. And it gives us, from a maintenance standpoint, that should we lose some capacity at SE2, we still have a means for getting the wastewater up to Cemetery Road. So what we needed, though, was in between where the forest main was on Southwest 3rd Avenue, we were looking at this place where the 15th Street Homes has a current developer agreement with us, and they were going to need a pump station to serve their development. We thought we could get them to donate property to us in return, that we would build the pump station we need, and then they could utilize it for their development. So you see, that's a lot of,
I was wondering what the
Wheeling.
connection was there.
It's called horse trading.
there's some benefit to both parties there.
Win-win, yeah.
And so what you see in your board package, between the engineer and Tom's work, there is this agreement, and I will segue it over to Mr. Conley if he has any further information on the agreement as to what needs to happen this morning.
I've got the original agreement, it's been signed by the owner. We need to sign it to get it complete. There's a couple of blanks in it. First page, we'll update, put a date in on the date of the agreement. It'll be the date, today's date. You guys approve it. The second thing will be to put in an anticipated closing date. And I would suggest, just to keep the pressure off the title company, to say on or before the 15th day of April, which should be sufficient time so that they are not squeezed and they can get all the documents together. And the third thing, which we have talked about briefly, will be some kind of it looks as though the property is being given to us. We're not paying anything for it, but it is costing us something because we're going to be doing the lateral connect in there at a certain elevation so that it serves that unit, that area. And I don't know what the additional cost to the OUA is to comply with that part of the agreement, Jeff. We can make up a number, but the reason for that is the title insurance company needs to put a value in the title insurance policy. It's not zero.
It was $1,000.
It wasn't, I mean, it was a run or 2 runs of 8-inch PVC and 2 manholes. It was not, but I thought I had seen that. If I didn't, I apologize.
I mean, that's the only thing missing, but other than that, approval of the agreement with the closing date, today's date.
Can we just put a number in there, or do you actually want
There's no number in this agreement.
so do you
It's to advise the title company what the actual cost to the OUA is to complete our part of the agreement for getting the property.
So we can put an estimated cost in there.
Oh, yeah, we could, and that's only for the purposes of the value of the title policy.
I would love to keep it simple and say it's just a gravity connection and not try to put a value on their use of the lift station.
I agree, I agree.
But the deal is, in most cases, I'm sorry about this discussion, but we just stub it out a short distance, and then they come to us, because that's
What the agreement says is we're gonna stub it to their property. So it's,
we have a very small property.
yeah, but it's, it's a little run of gravity, another manhole, and
So again, it might be 40 feet of piping.
Yeah.
And a mill, so that can't be but at the most $10,000,
that is exactly what I was gonna say. 6 or 7 for a manhole.
right? So do you want us to do an actual estimation, or we just put,
And that's only for purposes of the title insurance company, because they're gonna be issuing a title policy. They'll be closing the deal, preparing all the closing documents. And, it looks like the acquisition agreement, but there is a consideration, because we're doing something to acquire this property, and I have the agreement. The agreement is standard, pretty much agreement, except for the fact that it's a little unusual because there's no purchase price, there's no payment. There is a performance requirement of the OUA after closing. I'm not over talking this, but.
No, it's very,
so we can put in like
No.
$10,000 for the price of that piping?
Oh, we can, whatever we tell the title company.
It's not necessary for the agreement, it's just what we're going to verbally tell the title company, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
There's no, it doesn't go in this agreement, there's no place in this agreement where that shows, but if they close the deal and issue us a title policy, it's got to have a value in it, so.
So $10,000?
that's safe.
With the closing date, April 15th, on or before April 15th, which is today's date. Other than that, I recommend approval of the agreement. And we'll execute it today.
Any other questions for any of the powers to be here, John, Tom, or Jeff? Okay. Do we want to break this into two different motions, Counselor, for the approval of the acquisition agreement and then the authorization of the chair to sign? Or you want to do it as one?
That would be one thing.
One thing. Very good, sir.
With a proposed closing date of April the 15th and the date of the agreement being today.
And just to be clear, that would carry, the motion is to carry them all the way through the closing date, whatever's required for signatures on the closing date.
Yes.
Okay. That being said, if there's no further discussion, I'll entertain a motion as approval of the accusation agreement and authorize the OUA board chair to execute this agreement.
So said.
Motion by Mr. Nelson.
Second.
Second, Mr. Clay. Further discussion? Further discussion being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved. I'm reading here, sorry, guys. All right, agenda item number 18, the Okatani Engineering RFP. Sweet.
Chair and board members, just to bring you up to date, last month, there was the approval of the engineering order, if you will, to develop a scope of work and a fee schedule for the Okatani project. The engineering group did run into some issues with some previously scheduled time off, followed by the COVID experience. And so we were not able to develop a scope of work and a fee schedule by this board meeting. And so we will bring that to you.
March. Very good.
Just as long as it's not eagles and tortoises.
Well, we did have bonneted bats too, so if you want to add that to the list, but.
I hope there ain't none of them little hootie owls out there.
So that was just for informational purposes, unless the board wants to do anything extra.
Nope. Looking forward to seeing something in March. Agenda item number 19, this is the Southwest Fifth Avenue Engineering Report. Mr. Hayford or Mr. Sumner?
Well, I'll get you started, but Mr. Sumner's here to do a quick video PowerPoint presentation on the project, as you can see in the report, if you were so inclined to peruse through this report. The Southwest Fifth Avenue project area was primarily bordered on the north by 15th Street, the south by 28th, on the east, 7th Avenue, Parrott Avenue, and 7th Avenue on the west. There were three items to look at: gravity sewer, low pressure force main, and vacuum sewer collection. What are you looking at?
The power button.
Upper right corner. No, the keyboard, there's a little.
Ah, yes.
I believe there's 100 connections over there.
Well,
A little more than that.
so some of the areas already have some gravity sewer that was, it was just a backbone. It was never really fully developed. And then there is a lot of septic tanks and or drain fields. As you might have known, some of the area is poorly drained. So during the wet season, the homeowners are impacted by the ponding water and the poor performance of their existing septic tank and drain field. The study was to look at that issue and come up with an acceptable alternative. And so Mr. Sumner's here to present that today, and then it'll be open for discussions as to where we move forward with the Southwest Fifth Avenue project. At that end, I'll leave it to Mr. Sumner to do his presentation, and stop us anytime for questions if you have any.
John covered almost all of it, so I'll make this, I'll make this as, we'll make this as brief as I can, and hopefully you've all had a chance to review the actual report. A lot of what you're going to see here is simply repeating that and shortening it quite a bit. John mentioned the project area. Originally, it was really just kind of to look at the residential area over on the west side, and John did request, and with good reason, that we go ahead and extend the area of the study all the way to 441, because there are quite a few unserved commercial properties there. So the preliminary evaluation report looked at project need and what kind of feedback John has already gotten from some of the residents there. That I think the project need was pretty easy to demonstrate. If any of y'all have heard some of the voicemails John has from people in that neighborhood during the wet season, and we've heard this before, right? It's the same thing we've got in other areas in the Southwest Service area. Poor drainage, old septic tanks, some older homes that were built at a lower elevation, so the drain fields are lower than where they probably should be. A lot of good reason there to from a public health standpoint, to go in and do a project like this. And like John mentioned, we looked at 3 design alternatives, not only looking at capital costs to install them, but also some non-monetary factors. Like I say, we looked at the need for the project, and that was pretty easy to justify. Existing conditions analysis, John mentioned that there is quite a bit of gravity sewer along Southwest 3rd Avenue. There's also an existing force main there. The areas you can kind of see there in red are based on what we could tell from billing data that John sent us. Those are the customers that are already hooked up. Everything else, the green areas, are the commercial areas that do not have sewer service, and the big mass blue over there between 7th Avenue going east over to 3rd is all residential that is currently water customers, but on septic systems.
So the line going down 3rd, that's a gravity?
There's a force main there also.
It goes all the way down to, I used to live on 24.
It actually runs 2 different directions. There's an existing lift station on 5th Avenue.
It's right in the middle of the road, I can tell you that.
That's the one, you're talking about the one, that SW9 that's down there behind Pizza Hut.
Okay.
That one's in the road. There's one actually on Fifth Avenue, right in here, right next to Gary Ritter's house.
Know where that was?
All of that gravity, it goes north and south and then ties over into that force main or that lift station, and then the force main runs right back out and ties into the, so it's relatively shallow, and we'll get to that in a minute. There is some potential to expand that gravity. We can't get the whole service area, but we could get some of it. It's just it's a lot of doing to get there, so. We did look at both of those lift stations, the one there, SW8, and Tommy, the one that you just mentioned, down behind the Pizza Hut. The one behind Pizza Hut is not really, without a complete redo, it's little 35-gallon-a-minute grinder pumps. Yeah. SW8 actually has some pretty good sized pumps in it and appears to, it'll take a more detailed analysis, but appears to have the capacity to take all of these additional flows that we're talking about. And I detailed that pretty well in the report, or hopefully pretty well. So the three alternatives that we looked at, and same ones looked at on our other projects: vacuum sewer, gravity sewer, and low pressure. And I know when I say low pressure in this room, everybody cringes, but I do want to talk about that for just a quick second. The low pressure systems, the way that they're required to be put in now by statute, this isn't, they're not what you have down at Kings Bay. The statute, well, the statute requires now that you have to own everything that's on lot, so, or a homeowners association has to own it all.
For the rest of the story, I'll share that later. We agree, disagree on that.
We have different interpretations slightly different interpretations of the statute. To be clear, what I am proposing in our preliminary design for low pressure is not to go in and drop grinder pumps in everybody's individual septic tanks and let that be what OUA staff has to go maintain for the rest of their existence. These are they're set up more similar to the vacuum system, where you've got a grinder pit out in the road right of way, or very near the road right of way, that serves multiple houses. You still have a great number of pumps there to get power to and to maintain, but it's not what we have at Kings Bay, where everybody's got a different size pump in a totally different septic tank setup, and all the various nightmares that come along with that. So we did look at vacuum sewer. Obviously, it's a system that OUA is familiar with and we're familiar with. We all love it. It's, not a lot of operational issues, though it's certainly a little more complicated than gritty. Not a tremendous amount of disruption to the area to construct it. They're smaller lines, it's shallow construction. It can mostly be done in the grass. Very, very little asphalt restoration other than some crossings usually. The other really good thing about it is it would be pretty easy to expand outside of this project area if there are other unserved areas that we wanted to reach. I know that there is a little bit more commercial going north, and it's weird. This area is kind of a hole in your service coverage. There's not a whole lot outside of that we could reach, but there is some. The big disadvantage, obviously, it's of the three that we looked at, it was the highest capital cost. $6 million. A big chunk of that is building a new vac station, and the concern there is that, just looking at the numbers, we just really don't feel like there are enough connections there to justify construction of a vac station. It would also, finding a piece of land somewhere that you all would need to acquire.
Customer, basically. Did I do that right? 6 million, 100 customers?
Well, it's probably going to be closer to 150 customers. If you look at all the lots that could be developed, it'll be every bit of that. But yeah, it's a chunk. It's a chunk. Gravity sewer, by far easiest to design and operate once it's in the ground is the great thing. The big problem with gravity, if I was with a fresh piece of ground and a new development, gravity would be my go-to almost every time. The problem here is because we would be trying to tie into the existing, what you see, the blue lines there are the existing gravity lines that are on Third and in a few places extend east over towards 441. Relatively shallow, particularly at the north and south ends. So we don't know how far we can reach. We got some good road survey throughout the project area, and we feel like unless the houses are too low and we don't have finished floor elevations on all houses, we could get to most of that north part of the project area with gravity and serve it again, dumping into that lift station SW8. The property at the south end that you see kind of outlined in red there, without a rebuild of SW9, we really can't serve that area with gravity.
Lived on 24th and had 5 acres back there, Mr. Kinsol's old place.
Yep.
And right down from you, everybody thought that water went south. It doesn't. That water goes north.
Yeah.
And believe me, I fought it for years. That water goes north there behind Judge Bryant's house and then out. That thing sits like this.
Yeah, it's and the biggest concern with gravity into a developed area is you're basically talking about tearing out that road network, or at least most of it, and rebuilding it all. So from a construction cost standpoint, a disruption to the resident standpoint, a traffic maintenance standpoint, gravity becomes really problematic in a developed area. You know, and Seventh is a normal travel way to different schools. There's a lot.
Third, front of your house is everybody cuts in,
Yeah.
comes up through that away.
So you're talking about basically shutting down chunks of that road network at a time for periods of time.
The second would be an alternative.
Too many
Yeah.
steps. That's what they heard.
Yeah. And then we looked at low pressure. By far the biggest advantage of the low pressure system is the capital cost is roughly half of what the other two would be. So capital costs got weighted the same as everything else in our overall analysis, but from a budget standpoint and a funding standpoint, I could have argued for weighting that a little bit heavier. It's pretty easy to construct. You know, you're talking about really small lines. A lot of it can be directionally drilled. Other than the tie-ins to the existing gravity system, you're talking about pretty minimal asphalt restoration, road restoration. You may get into it with some of your pit construction, but that's not hard to deal with. Obviously, there are much higher operational cost issues and issues to deal with. You know, that our preliminary design, it's 87 little pump stations to maintain, to get power to. Those pumps tend to have shorter service lives. You know, but a typical sewage effluent pump would be 10 to 15 years, where these are more on the order of 5. So now they're less expensive pumps, but it's still something that, from a maintenance standpoint, you'd have to go in and deal with on a much more frequent basis. And just by the nature of it, because you could have failures and things like that, it translates into more frequent service calls to your staff. So there are additional operational costs that should be considered if this is the route that you choose to go. But based on all of that, we did score all of these based on those criteria, and based on that, the best scoring of the 3 was low pressure. So our what I will call our initial recommendation was to install low pressure to serve the entire project area. Talking with John after, and he's absolutely right about this. We could, or you as a board could consider kind of a blended option. Providing sewer service to that commercial area is not as critical an item, certainly from a health and safety standpoint right now. So that's something that we may want to take a little bit closer look at as a separate project. The gravity along Third can certainly reach that area easier than it could possibly reach the residential area over between 5th and 7th. So you could consider breaking the project up, going ahead and moving forward in the area where you're getting the most customer complaints now about their septic systems, and start working on design, permitting, construction of a low-pressure system for that residential portion on the west, and then maybe take a little bit closer look in the future at extending gravity to serve the commercial area.
Then that would come back to the lift station right there by,
By Gary's house, yep.
So you basically bringing it right back to that, so.
You'd be bringing the flow to that station, either directly into that station or the existing gravity sewer network.
Right.
Gets up to there. I'm talking about the Eddie Trent's house, the south end, probably would discharge into the gravity sewer, which is several blocks to the north, which would eventually flow into SW8, like Gary Riverside. All of the area on Southwest, Fifth Avenue and Seventh Avenue would discharge directly into the pump station.
Well, you're only going down Southwest 24th.
The low pressure would go all the way to 28th.
Okay, go all the way to 28th, okay.
Yep, we can go all the way down with that.
Jeff, do we ballpark on the cost, estimated cost on the alternative project that we're talking about, splitting the two? I know we've got firm prices on the other three.
Yeah, well, I haven't split them out. That would be not very hard to do. It wouldn't be hard to split it out for the low pressure in the residential area, because it's just a matter of reducing the number of pipe and pumps, but we can certainly get that to you.
We're looking at funding for sure, no matter what we
Understood.
do here.
Understood. And they, our friends at Jones Edmonds are finalizing, and I was hoping to have it this morning, but we'll definitely have it at the next board meeting, a letter report that kind of outlines some potential funding sources.
Okay.
I would suggest that if we're in a hurry to serve those residents, that we don't go the USDA route, since we know how long that takes now. But there may well be other funding options out there.
Just out of curiosity, I mean, it's $3 million to do the whole deal.
Four on the low end and 6.5 on the top end,
Yeah,
right?
so,
Yeah, well, and
what was
And
it?
we're talking about still serving a majority of the area by splitting it out like this. That commercial area is a pretty small percentage of.
I mean, if you do half of it, you know.
If I could make a suggestion here, I mean, I think what we kind of need to do, or at least what I would suggest to consider, is that we choose the areas. So like if we want a blended project, we look at splitting it between the residential and the commercial district, and then, or in total, one or the other. But if we could get some direction, you know, like if vacuum sewer and gravity sewer in total are out, and the choices are low pressure throughout or this blended where it's a low pressure gravity sewer combination, I would suggest that maybe we enter into further discussions with the engineering group to move forward with one of those projects and bring it back with the funding at the next month and get a detail. What we're up against here is wet season is
Coming.
a few months away, 4 or 5 months. If we were to go with a low pressure system, we could probably get a lot of that under construction, if not working before the wet season. If we put it off too much longer, probably not.
So you're 3.166 million, 3.2 for the whole project.
And
So
and
if you
again,
break
that
it
was
into
a,
3 pieces or 2 pieces or what, if you broke it into 3 pieces, it's $1 million a project. I mean, it's gonna go up, I mean, because of but
It would be safe to assume if it was a blended project between the low pressure and the gravity sewer, it probably will not be much lower than the low price. Because you're gonna forego the low pressure system in the east and replace that with gravity sewer.
gravity's more.
So it's only gonna be slightly more expensive than what you're already investing in the electrical and the pump stations and the gravity sewer, the low pressure sewer system in the east. So if it was 3 million, 3.1,
it's
it's
almost
a blended project might be around 3.5 or which is still below the total gravity price.
I'm just looking at, just like we did with you, John, how do we get that group of houses on sewer that's having the same issues that your neighborhood has, is every time it rains, you got sewage in the ditch behind
We don't call and leave messages with John.
you.
We don't get this.
Do it in person.
And that can be shared privately with everybody, not publicly.
But
Um,
my point is, I mean, if we broke it up, and again, I'm just using dumb math here, you know, let's say it does go to 4 million, you break it up in 3 pieces. It's more palatable at that than it is, oh yeah, it's $6 million and to do the whole thing. I'm just thinking, if we get started like you said,
Well, it could be agreeable that we say the Southwest Fifth Avenue, Seventh Avenue, and that piece to the south on Third Avenue, if low pressure is the choice, give me direction to move forward with them to get the design, scope of work, and fee schedule back when we get that started. The commercial area to the east of Third Avenue, we could go back and actually look at what that cost is between the blended or straight low pressure, and we make that decision next month. But at least we're moving forward with the residential section, and we can bring that scope of work and fee schedule back to the board next month. If it's agreeable, they're off to the races.
If I can clarify, I didn't mean to bring up funding at this point. Where it's selection, but a blended project was going to be more than the gravity. Let's say it falls somewhere between 5 and 6. Wouldn't it be better to go ahead and go for funding for a vacuum system at that time and because of construction cost? But you're just at 3.5, so now we're under the gravity.
The blended project shouldn't be anywhere near that. I mean, because a pretty small portion of that is gravity now. So,
Well, that's what I was fishing for, to see where it fell in that parameters. And if it was going to be at the top end, why not just talk about vacuum and be done with it? But we didn't get to that point. We went into the funding. We made a right turn there. So
and the other issue with vacuum, John's point of trying to beat this wet season, which, you know, who knows, we might find out that pumps aren't available for 6 months and dead in the water anyway. But to the extent that our goal would be to get it done, if you're talking about designing a vacuum system, finding a piece of property to acquire, to put a vac station on, you're talking about, you know, hoping for a wet season in next year.
I know a couple of people that would gladly give us their backyard right now for a pump station,
Yeah.
from what I hear. All right.
but again, you know, if you look at that 5th to 7th over there, we can get in there for $1 million or whatever. I mean, I think it's a no-brainer. It's a health issue more than anything else to me, and I don't really put a price on health, you know? And same thing we did with yours, John. It was, the whole rush was to get you guys tanks on the southwest section, you know? And again, your neighborhood and this neighborhood is probably the 2 worst that we hear about. I mean, right?
I would agree.
Yeah. So, I think you break it up and do what you said, John, and go ahead and try to break off that piece, get your,
Define the project area.
define that, and let's see what it's gonna cost.
So we'd be looking at the blended project?
That's what I think you need to do.
Well, again, if we break it up, the Southwest Fifth and Seventh Avenue, and then that lower piece on Third, we could easily bring back a scope of work and a fee schedule to move forward with a low-pressure system for that area that you could discuss, talk about, and/or approve next month. The other option during the next 30 days, we'll go back and define with them what the eastern corridor could look at, either as low-pressure, gravity sewer, you know, that type of deal, and see what just that cost. And if you like it, we amend their schedule and go forward with a combined project. But at least we have something next month that if the board is agreeable to it, with the 5th Avenue, 7th Avenue, and the southern portion of 3rd Avenue, we're moving forward with a design on low pressure. It's fast, it's quick. I hate it, but we'll go forward with it. Yeah. Essentially what we're doing, if we do the whole area, we're talking about 87 pump stations that we have to keep up with. It is slightly different than Kings Bay, in that in Kings Bay, we're up on private property, and there's always that issue of the power coming through their house, and at least in this instance, the power would be under the control of the OUA. We don't have to worry about what's happening within the house, whether they paid their bill or not. But if we have a big storm event, we've now got 87 pump stations for power up, and therein lies the problem, one of the problems with 87 versus one pump station SWA. But we understand, when you look at all the other pluses and minuses, that especially capital cost, $6 million is a tougher pill to swallow. It takes more involvement, longer time. So again, when you weigh it all out, as much as you may not like the idea of 80-something pump stations, the low pressure does seem to work better.
When I first read that, I had bad feelings because of Kings Bay. I'm familiar with that area, but what you've said
I
right
had
now.
bad
with-
feelings writing it. I believe
Yeah,
it.
but now that what you said with the master sumps, let's say the grinder pump, that sounds a lot better to me.
So if-
I'm starting to get a little more comfortable with a low pressure system.
But we could,
Go
ahead.
I was just gonna say, again, the Kings Bay is just their collection system. It's nothing about the community or the roads or anything, so we're just perfectly clear. It's just that every house has a septic tank in front of it, or quadplex or triplex, and the power comes from the house, and we're up on private property. It's got some bad issues with it on the wastewater side.
Liability of it all.
So,
My experience with it are people that I know that live over there calling me because they found out somehow I'm on this board because their pump's working and they need to get service out there. And it seemed like for a 3-week period, it was every day I'm getting a call from the person that the pumps are gone bad. Their life was done at the same time, obviously.
So we can put a
That's my bad
genset,
experience with it.
put a genset there at the lift station by Ritter's house, or is there one already there?
there is not one there, but, so the issue that we have to deal with when we get into the actual design is, does the power have a drop at each station, so it's directly from FPL, we got 87 meters, we get 87 bills, or do you run power with the low-pressure piping system, and the power comes from one central source, let's say like SW8, where if we did hook up one generator there, we could power all of those homes on Fifth Avenue. So that's one of the issues that we have to come through. We did have them put a number in there, I think it was $2,500 or something like that, for an electrical connection at each pump station. What is not designed is whether it's a drop from FP&L in a meter can, or do we run power from a central source where we could hook up one generator and power all of
And
them.
then just do a blended cost on it and go
Well, it
up
may
that way.
drive the cost up or down depending on which electrical source we
Oh.
choose from.
I mean, it's not my deal, but if it was me, I'd want one drop.
Or one per street maybe,
Or one
something
per
that,
street.
breaking it up, that certainly, I would think, we'll have to talk to our electrical guys. I would think that that's a better option than an individual drop at each one of these.
Well, when we run the analysis, we'll certainly do that from a cost standpoint, which is, what are the costs for each one, and then decide on operational, which one might be easier, better, which we already know that answer, and come up with our choice.
Sounds good.
So you need a motion to break this,
Or at least direction, which way you want us to go.
I think first we need to pick a project, right? Pick a select
yeah,
project.
that's what I'm thinking.
Blended project or whatever.
Well, again, I would, my suggestion is we just go for if the low pressure is the agreement, that the direction given, develop a scope of work and fee schedule for the low pressure system to serve Southwest Fifth Avenue, Seventh Avenue, and the south end of Third Avenue. And we can, but then in the meantime, what we'll do is try to get you a blended price or the price for either low pressure or gravity sewer to serve the commercial district, and we can bring that back at the next meeting.
So you just want to get us to basically agree to move forward with the project, and you're going to bring more information back.
Move forward with the residential area, Southwest
The-
Fifth
well,
Avenue,
the-
Seventh Avenue, Southwest
Okay.
Third Avenue. If low pressure is the choice, which is certainly our recommendation, And then we'll bring you back information on whether gravity sewer or low pressure for the commercial district at the next meeting.
You writing all that down, Michelle? Because I'm going to entertain what he just said.
Yes, we're gonna look at fifth through seventh and the lower part of third on gravity sewer.
Nope, low pressure.
Low pressure, I'm sorry, low pressure. You bring it back price and the scope of work at our next meeting for that.
Correct.
And you need that in form of a motion.
I think you just did it.
I did.
Motion by Mr. Second by Mr. Nelson. Any further discussion? Further discussion, being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Jeff, thank you.
Thank y'all. I apologize for running your meeting longer than
But
Chair
that's,
had intended.
this is something that needs to be done. And
Yeah.
That's going to make some happy people over
It's
there.
gonna make some happy people, and
And just to be clear, we'll also bring back the commercial district for further review and discussion, gravity sewer and low pressure, and then we'll move from there on that.
Correct. Be
I'm
the
more
next
worried
piece of
about
the
them
puzzle.
leaving them houses.
Yeah. For now, those are the ones leaving the message.
Yeah.
Thank
y'all.
you, Jeff. All right, moving on to agenda item number 20, the Southwest Service Area Project 1 additional engineering fees. Must be a misprint there.
Southwest Service Area, you can look through the paperwork that was submitted. There are the changes that we've made as this big project has kind of evolved. Remember, there are the three main projects under the Southwest Service Area. Project 1 is the SE2 interconnect, the master pump station, and the master force main. Project 2 primarily being the collection system, and then the third and final project being the segment between, going down to Okatani, the force main. This is all primarily with Project 1, which was our first project, and we've started. We can go through there and talk about the issues of the, I think previously the 10 to 12-inch PVC versus HDP. The plans were designed around 10-inch PVC. They need to be modified by the 12-inch based upon board action today. Adding the pump station at SE2, which we talked about, and then the original concept was it was going to be 2 bids, and we're now ultimately ending up with 4 bids for Project 1. The site clearing at the master pump station, the master pump station, the master force main, and SE2. So even though it's the same total project area, we are doing 4 different bids. So there is paperwork, administrative-wise, a little more work involved by both staff and the engineering group. So Sumner Engineering lumped them all together in one additive contract for their work, Southwest Service Area, to the tune of $36,220, and that's what's up for consideration, discussion today.
Right. Any questions for John? Okay. I'll entertain a motion that we approve the request for additional work authorization as submitted by Sumner Engineering and Consulting in the amount of $36,220.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Anderson, second by Mr. Clay. Further discussion?
Yes, one thing.
Yes.
I'm slow, but I just figured out Sumner Engineering
Yes.
Consulting.
It's not ACC.
No, it's a SEC.
With an orange and blue logo.
I'm sorry, I had to throw that in. It's hard for me.
Coming up with that is actually what made me pull the trigger on starting the company. I was like, well, no, I have to.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Further discussion? Go Gators.
Securities Exchange Commission.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I also budgeted for a copyright infringement attorney early on, just in case.
I was sitting there the other night reading that, and I'm going, I can't believe he did that.
Better hope we stay in the SEC or you got to change your company name.
Put an A in there for the STAC.
Yeah, right.
All right, moving on to agenda item number 21, public comment. Sir, you're not public anymore, you're on the payroll. Agenda item number 22, items from our attorney.
I have the gold-plated, diamond-studded Beatty,
All right. Wow. Wow. I was beginning to wonder if that was gonna be like our deal out there.
along with a document that deals with the trust, showing the authority of the trustees to sign it. I think you've already approved it.
Which time?
Approved everything, so I'll present it to the chairman to sign so that we can get this thing signed, these documents signed. And I promised Mr. Ricks, the attorney, that we would immediately email him copies of these once they were recorded. I'll send him hard copies later. We need to send a check for the amount, what was the amount, John? Whatever it is.
It's like 13,000 or something, I don't.
I don't have the amount in front of me, I'm sorry, I don't. I'm not very prepared this morning, I'm sorry. But we've got the go-ahead, and this is the missing link.
This was the last easement for Project One, Force Main, Master Force Main, from the school board property up to NW15, Fulford, the livestock, the Hall property, the county. Those easements have all been signed and approved. This was the last one that's needed, so we would certainly like to make sure that if we're to cover our bases, that the approval today would be to execute the easement and to approve, to again affirm the payment to the trust property for this easement, in return of this easement.
Just to be safe, you could do that. I think you've already done it. I think you've already approved it, but authorize the chairman to execute this agreement and get it recorded.
So said.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Clay.
Second.
Second by Mr. Nelson. Any further discussion? Being none, all in favor? Thank you, Tom. That was a long time coming.
Just think if you hadn't known them.
Yeah. Any further items, sir?
No, ma'am. No, sir.
Agenda item number 23, items from the executive director. John?
It's all there, we can certainly go through it, we will be able to fill in some dates for the substantial and final on the master pump station. The material has been purchased, the intent is to get the force main actual bid out for construction within the next month, maybe before next board meeting. We won't have the results, of course, but it'll be out to bid. Certainly we'll be moving forward, finalizing the SE2 interconnect design for the Southwest service area. You can see the numerous meetings that we've attended this month. The surprise was going to Tallahassee to meet with various state senators and representatives, which was in support of our current appropriation request, which did make it into the House bill, so we're still alive. In the coming weeks, it will go to conference between the House and the Senate, where the dollar amount, hopefully staying in the budget, will be there, and then we have to wait on the governor's pen to either sign or veto the project. But it was one of those deals that kind of came up at the last minute, again, through the help of Connie and Jim. They were able to line up all 4 meetings on one day. So it was a busy Tuesday up there, but we did get through to see those 4 folks. And I think it was very positive to reassure our position of where we're at with Treasure Island. So I'll entertain any other questions or thoughts, if there's anything you might have.
Questions for John?
What about the Gophers? Where are we at? I mean,
The permit for the tortoises has been filed with Game and Fish, so it's under advisement. When you call them, all you can do is call them and say, hi, and they have had a few questions. We've supplied answers, so it's under review. What we're doing, we did get started with the site civil work under the guidance of the permit reviewer, saying, here's what you absolutely have to do, how many feet you got to stay away from them. And so we were able, if you drive by there now, you'll be able to see that the culvert in the driveway has actually been cut into the property, and the initial canopy of trees has been opened so we can gain access on our property once we have the permission with the Gopher permitting folks. Once that occurs, then we will set up a relocation area on the property for the gopher tortoises. If they're found, we'll excavate the burrows and actually see if they're inhabited. If they're not, done deal, we don't relocate them, we go on down the path. If they are there, we relocate them on site. So, it is moving forward. We'll issue the notice to proceed within the next week or so for the master pump station. We've actually already started some of the shop drawing submittals. We've met with them. We'll have a kickoff meeting with them next week. And so for the first, I'm assuming, month, 6 weeks, we'll be doing paperwork, and then they'll be out there.
Well, it's been very, very busy, I can say that, because I've been around a lot, and thank you, John, for keeping everything organized and getting it done. It's amazing, is what's going on right
Going
now.
to get even worse.
It's going to get even worse, you're absolutely correct. Any other questions for Mr. Hifford? Being none, we'll move on to agenda item number 24, items from the board. This has become one of those items that we bounced around for a while, trying to find a meeting date that accommodated everybody. The county commission had told us that they thought we were a little too tight with our agendas, didn't have enough time, so we've adjusted that. People that work out of town, people that work on Monday mornings, we've had a lot of adjustments. We've come up with something now, and it's up to this board to decide if we're going to continue on with this, or you've given us a
If you stay at 8:30 a.m., well, the time doesn't matter, 8:39, that doesn't change. But these dates are based upon the third Thursday of the month, these dates. So if this Thursday, brand-new Thursday meeting date seems to work with the board, then what we would ask that you approve these dates. We'll go back and publish them and get them out in the community when the new dates are going to be. And so what we're really asking, is the time good? And is the day of the month good, the third Thursday?
Time doesn't matter to me.
8:30 is a good time.
we're seeing some faces we haven't seen, and some people that have problems on Mondays. It's great to see a group here today, so hopefully we've found something that works, so.
Make a motion, we accept.
Motion to
For the
set
date and the time,
dates.
8:30?
Date and time.
Date and time.
Okay, 8:30 a.m., third Thursday.
Third
Each day and
Thursday.
a time.
Motion by Mr. Nelson. Second, Ms. Trent. Any further discussion? All right, being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. It will be as written until we change it again. Hopefully, not in a while.
8:30 a.m., third Thursday.
Yes, sir. Any other business coming before the board?
Just that Connie and team are working very hard for us, as you've noticed. I've spoken to Connie and to Albritton's office, Karen. Even though Albritton is going to be leaving us, they are still going to be very strong in obtaining additional funds. Connie's going after that 3 million slot that we have to try to get us additional funds, plus there's some additional funds out there, both at the state and federal level, that she's going after. So they're really pushing for us. I understand, based upon talking to others, that we're in a very good position, Okeechobee County. Jeff, with all the projects that we've given you, all right, I know I'm putting you on the hot point. Will you be able to handle all of these projects
Yes,
on a timely fashion?
yes.
Because that's one of the questions I'm being asked, is that the people who would like to fund this additionally want to make sure that we can handle it so that they can use it as a political agenda, so to speak.
Well, I've discussed this with John, and I don't mind saying this publicly, so it will keep me from changing my mind and biting off more than I can chew. As an example, I have already said, I'm happy to play a support role if someone wants me to
Yes.
in the upcoming Treasure Island work, but I have no intention of trying to take that work on as a prime consultant. It would detract from my ability to do the work that I'm already under contract to do.
Right.
So
I I just want to make sure that if I have further discussions, that I can speak properly to let them know that we won't be falling behind on timeline. That's my biggest question that I have with them. Thank you.
You got Eckler.
I've got Eckler and John Edmonds. I mean, we've got
Yeah,
we've got
I mean, it's
a good
Good.
team.
Deep pockets.
To cover it.
Yeah, it's a deep field. I mean, you're loaded.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because this is the year, we only have to the end of the year, okay, with respect to, going to move on to something else. And your trips up to Tallahassee, et cetera, were really, helpful and everything. And you saw, how you got into their office and were able to talk to them and everything, so. Right now, we are in the proper position, is what I'm trying to say.
Fine.
But we only have X amount of months to execute it. And then, unfortunately, they go on to something else.
Yeah.
I'd like to elaborate on what Steve said with, I attended Tallahassee with John, and we are very blessed with Connie and Jim up there. We sit in this boardroom and we approve their monthly fees and all of this, but when you go up there and you're welcomed with she can open doors that nobody else can. It's just amazing. There's one of the representatives that the county tried to get a meeting with, they weren't able to. She took us over there and got us right in. Not that we're special, but just watching her move and shake, she can do it. We're blessed to have her on our roll. All right.
And Jeff, I wouldn't expect any other answer other than what you just gave. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other business coming before the board? Being none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Steve, second by Tommy. Have a good month, guys.
Good health, everybody.
Have a good one.